how City pass it in midfield on a hot pitch at Wembley, you're just thinking you've got to have that extra man in midfield. You can't leave it.
It might be hot. You're the weatherman. It might be raining. Get the forecast there. It might be raining.
No, right, it's 21 degrees and sunny.
I don't believe that stuff.
It's 21 degrees and sunny.
Huge game Saturday. What are we thinking? Where's it going to be won and lost? I'll start with you, Jill. I keep going to Gary because he's in my eye line, but he's talking too much.
No, I do actually think the first goal is going to be so important. I think if City get it, it could be 3-0. But I can't see United beating City. I have to say it. I think they're just absolutely flying at the minute.
Don't say them words,
Jill.
Don't say them words!
If I was a betting person, I can't see United doing it. Don't get us wrong, I think that they have a lot of players that can change a game, but I think City's collective performance will outdo them on the day.
Roy?
Yeah, I am worried for United in the sense, again, early goal. City have dominated them over the last few years. City's players, the place they're in, the momentum they've got. But I just think United team have a couple of players, Fernandes, Rashford, who can hurt City. If City are just off it or let them off the hook like they did at Old Trafford, just kind of give United a bit of a chance. I think Wembley, the atmosphere, the fact that United are being written off, that's very, very dangerous.
Gaz?
I think it's hard to play well at Wembley sometimes. I might regret saying that because City will probably go out there and play 2 million passes on Saturday. But sometimes, if it's a hot day, it's not an easy stadium to get your absolute best performance in. So I'm hoping that that's the case and City are just below a level. I don't want United to play with Casemiro, Fernandes and Eriksen in midfield.
What would you go?
I don't want to.
Fred? Would you put Fred in there?
The game they won against them, I think Fred was with Casemiro.
Them speak too well together, though. Do you not think?
Fred has been sensational this season, right?
I've just got this. I just don't see how City will not run amok if it's Casemiro, Fernandes, and Eriksen.
They'll dominate the game, whatever.
But I just feel not having that extra little bit of something just to break the play up and not have. So for me, when they won the game, I think at Old Trafford, I think he played with Fred and Casemiro.
City let him off the hook, though, Gary.
I know.
They let him off the hook.
I know. But Fred and Casemiro played with Eriksen in front, and then they had Rashford, Martial and Fernandes to the right. Now, the reason I think that works is because City don't have a left-back going forward, and I think Bruno can tuck in a little bit more as well, which almost means like they've got like a 4 tight in there with Eriksen, Fernandes, Casemiro and Fred, and I think closing that off and letting City's left-back have it, who's that going to be on Saturday left-back? Kanji or Ake? I don't know.
Ake, maybe.
So I just feel like, for me, Bruno gets into a little space, comes and tightens up the midfield to defend. Let's City's left side have it. I feel that's what I'd like us to do to be more. I'd like that extra more. If it's McTominay, by the way, alongside Casemiro, it doesn't really matter. I just feel having that open midfield is a massive problem for
That's
United.
going to be so important because I think the game will be won or lost in midfield. And when City add a number, as in John Stones, and it's a 4-3-3, it is impossible to mark against.
And you've got Eriksen, Fernandes and Casemiro. Only Casemiro thinks, really. I mean, the other two, to be fair, do all right without the ball, but they're better on the ball than they are without the ball. So I just think not having that extra man, I'd be really worried. Where it could be 6 type thing, like it was at. I think they played at City's Stadium. It was 6-1. Obviously, they ended up 6-3. I think that was with. I think it was with McTominay, Eriksen, and Fernandes, and they just got killed. So I just think having that extra midfield player, would you go?
You're saying about Fernandes going in there, but these lads, I think, generally aren't good defensively anyway. I think the extra body.
Would you not go with the extra not tough one, but the extra physical one in there? Because Anthony looks like he might not be playing anyway now.
No, he's
got that injured. So there's no one who's playing there anyway. Sancho? I wouldn't put him there. I'd put Bruno just off that side a little bit. I mean, I'm not
possibly so. Not that he's defensive minded.
Who?
Bruno.
No, but at least you've got then Fred or McTominay alongside Casemiro with Eriksen, so you've got a bit more toughness in there.
Fernandes works back though, doesn't he?
Sorry?
Oh, he works.
He does. He comes back, but
he
doesn't do much when he gets back. But you could say that as well. United a few times this year when they've gone with the wide players, particularly whether it be Sancho and some players come back, but they just go through the motions. They don't win you the ball back. And whatever happens, City will dominate the game. They will dominate possession in midfield, and they will create loads of chances. That's the worry. But we just hope United worry about the goalkeeper. But again, I go back to United. If City just lay them off the hook like they did Old Trafford, United have one or two players that can produce on the big occasions.
I saw yesterday he said about De Gea, would you now move him away as number one? You changed
Yeah, no, my point was, De Gea's in goal next year, I don't think that will help close the gap at Man City. That's the way I look at it. And then you wouldn't keep him as a number two because he's been number one for years. That's in a respectful way.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and not some sort of punishment. Going, listen, but if he's not going to be number one, then you move him on.
Yeah, but who are you going to get number one?
It's hard to win it.
Like people say to me, why don't I rate De Gea? Because I think he makes too many mistakes. That is a bloody good reason.
They concede a lot of shots, though, don't they? Over the years,
it's defensively, but he's part of that. Part of a goalkeeper's job is to be organised and to dominate the back four. We mentioned Schmeichel earlier about shouting at people. That's what you mentioned. Harp being a good shot stopper. Well, I hope he is. He's a bloody goalkeeper. You know, you're supposed to be good at stopping shots, but it's more. It's
but
the package.
De Gea did really well for a couple of seasons, especially when United were.
Yeah, you're going back a good few years now. You're going back.
Yeah, okay. Maybe
and again, if you're a goalkeeper and you're playing for a bad, if you're playing in front of you're behind a bad back foot, you're going to be making saves. But the real goalkeepers are organised. United have been a bit better this year. I don't think he would close the gap on what Man United need against Man City. It's tough.
I don't know how much money's there, so they might not be able to get rid of De Gea and say buy Harry Kane if they were looking to do that in one hit. So they might have to say, okay, we'll have to cope with him for another year because he's there and we don't want to spend 50, 60, 70 million on a goalkeeper because we want to get Harry Kane and we want to get another player that will... And then next year they do that. So the only reason I would say keep him is if it means then they don't... They use the money there, but they will not win the league.
But we know the importance of it.
A goalkeeper is everything to a league. You have to have a brilliant goalkeeper. You have to have an unbelievable goalkeeper. The reason Leicester have gone down, I think, personally, is Schmeichel's personality and character. How have they lost that? You can't lose that.
Or if you do let him go, like Casper, listen, that can happen. We don't know what goes on in the background of clubs, but it's what you bring in then. You have to bring in better. No. Again, I agree, there's no point letting De Gea go and then bring in somebody in who's not up to it, but that's United's job, is to be looking for a replacement for the last few years because he's getting older.
I mean, I don't think
recruitment.
I don't think Pickford's a world-class goalkeeper. If you look at those three teams that were vying to go down yesterday, Leeds' problems with their goalkeeper, Leicester's problems with theirs, and then you look at Pickford has actually been stable, hasn't he? For Everton, that could be the difference. That purely could be the difference of the point, the 2 points, whatever it is. So for me, I think De Gea is one for the longer term that they do need to get rid of him. Either now, or if they've not got the money, then obviously a year later at the maximum. But
in terms of belief for this game, though, Man United have beat Newcastle, haven't they, at Wembley in that cup final. Yeah. So I actually think that will stand them in good stead. Yeah. They've coped with a cup final, they've won the trophy, they've been there. Yeah.
I just think the fact people are writing them off. They were writing Man United off against Brighton. As if Man United couldn't cope with Brighton because Brighton were doing well at the time. They turned up and they got over the line in the big games and they're a bit better. But logically, on paper, City are favourites. But that might just suit Man United. Big occasions.
What's the difference between like a really good Man United performance this year compared to... Because I feel like you see two different sides sometimes, like the team against, say, Nottingham Forest, and then obviously when they go and beat Chat, like what's the difference? Like work rate?
My worry for this United team is that on a few occasions when they've gone behind or been up against it, they've gone under very, very easily. There's loads of occasions. Liverpool, Seville, Brentford. There was loads of games you go, they went under very, very quickly. City game. Like 5 or 6 occasions. Again, you mentioned it was kind of a one-off against maybe Liverpool, but there's been too many occasions where I think just when the goings got tough, and I think you'd hate for that. United's worst nightmare would be that to happen at Wembley against Man City. For example, if City scored early, that United all of a sudden you go, listen, their weaknesses then, you start seeing it right in front of you going, oh, we don't want to see the weaknesses that we've seen a few times this season happening at Wembley against Man City. And that's where you go back to that first goal.
That first goal,
huge.
So mentality.
United fans will be down there. Listen, City will obviously be gripped. If United fans and United are at it and they're certainly in the game, you know, they could just do it.
Staying in the game is everything for United. Staying in the game is everything. If they're in it with 10, 15 minutes to go, I think they've got a great chance because something can happen.
United might have to survive.
Something happens. You don't know what it is.
United might have to survive for the first hour. It could be just hanging in there, even for Man United with their players going, just hang in there, stay in the game.
But that's why that midfield, I think, is key. Can't play with that three midfield that are a bit... They're getting on in age, I think, and the legs are not...
But you know, what all about the teams that have done different tactics against City? and they just still dominate.
I know,
they
but you just
dominate
think how
midfield
City
anyway.
pass it in midfield on a hot pitch at Wembley, you're just thinking you've got to have that extra man in midfield. You can't leave it.
It might be hot. You're the weatherman. It might be raining. Get the forecast there. That's the crow. That's the crow. It's going to be hot at Wembley.
It might not be hot.
It might be raining.
No, right, it's 21 degrees and sunny.
I don't believe that stuff.
It's 21 degrees and sunny. It's going to be boiling. And on the pitch side, about 32.
In the shade.
Can we talk about Ten Hag quickly? How
Yeah.
the job he's done? I mean, it'd be
Yeah,
nice
he
to
has
finish
done
with some positivity around him because he's done a good job this season, huh?
Very good. Very good. I think it's a good foundation. Whether, like others, have had good foundations, Jose, Ole, have all been in this position where they've sort of done that first good 1 or 2 season, all of a sudden it's that next step.
Yeah.
But he's done very well. I think the situations he's had to handle, an absolutely shocking recruitment cycle at the start when he couldn't get De Jong, there was Arnautovic, Rabiot, all that was still this season. He had to go through that where he was thinking, he was being told by the recruitment department they could get him, and he couldn't get him. Then he obviously had the Ronaldo situation, he had difficulties with Maguire, difficulties with Sancho, difficulties with other players as well. I think that they've played every Wednesday, Thursday or Thursday, Sunday in every week nearly. So he's played every single week, he's never had any rest. I think he's done a very good job.
Yeah.
I think if they win the FA Cup, it's been a brilliant season.
Yeah.
If they don't, I think it's been okay. I think it's been steady away.
All right, well, Jill, Roy, Gary, thank you very much. I'll see you at the game.
Is it BBC?
Yes, I am.
ITV? Oh, what am I watching? What's everyone watching it on?
Do you want numbers? I mean...
Stick your adverts up your ass.
If you want adverts,
If it wasn't for the
every
adverts.
5 minutes. Deary me.
Who did you work for during the World Cup?
ITV.
Who did you work for during the World Cup?
ITV,
Right,
yeah. But I'll be at the game, Roy. I'm coming down as a fan.
What about team spirit? Nev went for 16 meals with Bex. They invited me, not once. Fucking team spirit for you.
Will you go
Oh,
for
we didn't know
meals
you wanted
with
to come.
Beckham?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I came with you and Righty loads of times.
Yeah.
I came with you and Righty loads of times.
me and
Jill, we had
Bex
a
are going
Lebanese twice.
Yeah, but now I know you went with Beckham.
Yeah, but you
I'm
didn't play with
gutted.
them. You went out with Bex. How many times did you invite me?
I went once.
No, you didn't.
I went once.
No, you didn't, Gary.
Oh, twice. Yeah,
Exactly.
twice. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well done.
Turn the
Well done,
camera.
Micah.
Well done.
Jill.
Thank
Well done,
you.
Roy.
Thanks.
Well done.
Thanks, boys.
Jill.
Thank you.
Roy.
Well done, everybody.